What I really want to focus on this morning is this middle section of here, because it could get overlooked, of Abram rescuing Lot. And this is what I want to dive into, is this section right here, is Abram rescuing Lot, because you can unpack this whole thing. But I asked you guys this at the beginning. I said, what has God rescued you from? It's so good to remember that. I asked my father-in-law for permission for this part, and so my father-in-law described it to me as this: we love taking car rides together. Me and my father-in-law, his name's Frank, and me and Frank love taking car rides together. We just debrief. It's a quiet place, and we just talk about life. He loves talking about ministry. Before he gave his life to the Lord, he got into some trouble, and he was in prison. And when he was in prison, he said to me, Matt, it was like this. He said, I felt like my life, if I were to put it into a story, it was like I was on a raft out at the beach, and I started on the shore. And next thing I know, I look up from my raft, and the shore is way back there. And I asked myself, how did I get here? He said, that's what I asked myself when I was on that prison bed. I asked myself, how did I get here? He said, next thing I knew, I just looked back, and life was way back here. And he said, every decision that I was making was pushing me farther and farther away. And he said it was at that time he started seeking and asking, and he gave his life to the Lord. He became a Christian in prison, and now he does prison ministry, which is really cool. He goes all around the nation, preaches the gospel, baptizes people in prison, gets Bibles into prison. It is phenomenal what God's done in that man's life. But I never forgot that analogy that he gave me, is when he looked out, he felt like he was on this raft. You guys ever been there in the ocean? By the way, oceans are scary. Okay, just throwing that out there. And you look back, and all of a sudden the tide just takes you out, and it's like life's way back here, and everyone's a little dot, and you're like, how did I get here? I want you to know that's how easy sin is. That is how easy it is. I told you, look at the pattern that Lot had. I want you guys to know it's not just all of a sudden you woke up and you had an affair on your spouse. There were steps that happened to get there. It wasn't just one time you decided to open up your laptop and search up pornography and it just appeared on your computer. There were steps that it took to get there. It wasn't just that you woke up and you blacked out because you can't remember what yesterday happened. There were steps that got you to find out what's at the bottom of that bottle. Sin entices you. The devil's crafty in how he does it. Even though it's the same three things he does: lust of the eyes, lust of the flesh, the pride. It's the same three tactics, which is why we need to suit up and be ready, because it's the same three things. But look, Lot saw, and what did he do? He separated himself, he got closer, and he faced his tent towards sin. And if you're not careful, if I'm not careful, we could do the same thing. We can look at something or someone that just walks right by us, an ad on a billboard or something on the screen or something on your phone or a conversation that's happening, and all it takes is one more look. Wait, what? And you can have interest. Or it just looks appealing, or it looks different. Then you start isolating yourself and pulling away from either church or people that are going to hold you accountable. And guess what, guys? Us people that usually are in sin, we hate the word accountable. Yeah. Like, ugh, don't tell me that. Ugh, I don't need accountability. I go to Bible studies. I go to, yes, we do. I have accountability people in my life. I have people that ask me the hard questions about my marriage, about my finances, about giving. Ooh. I have that, guys. I need that. If I don't have someone doing that, guess where I'm going to be? On a raft in the middle of the ocean, looking back saying, how did I get here? We need accountability. We need people in our life to point us back to the cross. And so look what Lot did. He slowly progressed and got away, and he got into a position to where he thought he had it all. If I only had out there. And because what's funny is he must have been thinking about Sodom and Gomorrah for so long that when Abram gave him a choice, what land do you want? He had no hesitation. Sodom and Gomorrah. If God were to give you a choice of which way you want to go, how quick would you be to say towards him or the other way? I saw a video that went viral of people going around asking people, would you like $1 million or 5 minutes with God? Do you know how many people said $1 million? For some of us in here, we're like, $1 million sounds pretty good. Which way is your tent facing? Is it towards what your heart really is desiring? Or have you repented from your old ways, which means turning away from? You're letting this renew your mind. It's a renewing of your mind, and you're facing the cross. And you're letting that be the focus of your life. You're letting that dictate your decisions, that dictate your values and your morals and how you're talking to people. Before we dive into this part, I want you to see I shared the story a long time ago, but I want to share this again. You guys ever been to Yosemite? Is there any Yosemite people in here? Yosemite, like Californians? We have sometimes people are like, I'm from California. And I'm like, what took so long? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, so we're here. And so we went, my dad, he was a wrestling coach for a long time. He used to take us wrestlers to Yosemite to a place called Half Dome. And we would go, we'd take the wrestling team early in the morning before the sun would rise. We'd pack in his Suburban. And he had an assistant coach named Coach C. And Coach C was one of the buffest dudes I've ever seen. He had like implants in his arms. These things were ginormous. And he had like, his calves were just unbelievable. It's like all the statues were like probably sculpted around him. And he was just this big dude, just massive, Coach C. And we all would pile in the car and we would go to Half Dome. So it's because it's half of a dome, okay? This is in California in a place called Yosemite. It's not Yosemite, it's Yosemite. And if you look at those little ants on the side of the mountain, those are actually people. That's the way to go up. There's like this really straight up rope that you kind of go. It's got wooden steps on it, and you go up there. And there's a picture, I think, of me and my brothers one of the times we went up there. That's us sleeping on the cliff, on the edge of it. And if you zoom in, I think you can see. Yep, there's my very white legs on the far side. My older brother is laying out. My little brother's probably making sure we don't roll off in our sleep off the edge of it. But this is Half Dome, and my dad would take us brothers, or us wrestling team, we'd go up there. Now, the first time he did this, we'd never been before. And so we got there, and we made a decision in the car, because we're wrestlers, we're competitive, who's going to get up to Half Dome and back to the van, the Suburban, the fastest. But what we didn't know was that this is an all-day thing there and back. We're just used to short sprints and stuff my dad would do in the wrestling room, and we're going to go all out. So by the time right when we parked, I convinced one of my friends. I said, hey, let's just get out and sprint. What about our waters? What about our food? No, we're going to sprint. We're going to beat there. And so he's like, okay. And the light's starting to come out. We get out of the car and we just sprint. And everyone's like, where are you guys going? We got this. And we just start running in Yosemite. And then it took us about maybe 3 hours. And we're like, actually, I don't know where I'm going. And we don't see any trails. We don't see any signs, which if you guys have been used to, there's signs for trails everywhere. And I start panicking. But I don't tell my friend that because then he'll panic. I'm more looking at which limb am I going to eat first the longer that we're out here. And so I'm starting to panic. We don't have food, we don't have water, and we get lost. And I'm trying to figure out where are we going, and this is bad. And we get to a point where there's this wall right in front of us. It's this rock wall with a tree stump, and there's another tree stump at the top, and the sun is like kind of up, but this wall is so high that it's blocking the sun. And I'm just at a point where I'm just giving up. And I'm thinking, okay, it was nice knowing him. His fingers are fat enough to start those off with chicken wings. So I'll start eating those. And as I'm giving up, I look up and I see this shadowy figure come up on the top of the mountain. It was like a movie. I see these doves come up, and the sun just starts peeking up above him. And the guy's standing on this log, and it's Coach C. His massiveness. He goes, guys, come on, this way. And we were so pumped. We got up and we ran up this mountain. We were able to get up. We connected back with them. They took us to the promised land and back down. And I want you to know that from that point on, we stuck with our group. We ate, and I was so thankful for food. But for Coach C, who went before us, he came back for us. He got us. Yeah, there I was relieved. Again, look at the little dots behind us. But this right here is a little bit of a picture of what happened with Lot, is the decision that he made to separate himself and go to an isolated land not only impacted himself, but as all those around him. Because I want you to see, you just saw, we had the beginning of this chapter is a list of all these kings, and they all were under a certain rulership, and they're all going to war against each other. Do you think when Lot made a decision to move to Sodom and Gomorrah, he knew that in just a couple months or years' time, there was going to be a war that was going to impact his family there? No. But you know who did? God. He knows what's on the grass is greener, guys. He knows it always looks like that, doesn't it? The grass is greener if I only had that. if I had this wife, if I had this house, if I had this finance, if I had this response. He knows what's really over. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. He has you right where he wants you with the spouse that you have right now. He's got you right there and wants you to be plugged and planted and abiding in him, not your circumstances. And so when Lot made this decision to go out there, look what it says in verse 11 and 12. The 4 kings took all the goods of Sodom and Gomorrah and all their food and went on. They also took Abram's nephew Lot and his possessions, for he was living in Sodom, and they went on. With the things that he desired for the world, he ended up being a slave to. When they came and they took him, all the things he longed for that the world gave to him, he ended up losing it all and becoming a slave. I wonder what he was thinking as he was captive, and he thought, oh my gosh, it was all for nothing. Why did I do this? Why did I separate myself? It doesn't say that, but I can only imagine if I'm in his shoes, this is what I'm thinking. You know why? Because I've been there. Why did I go after this? Why did I make these decisions? Why did I not listen to my dad? Why did I not listen to my mom? Why did I not listen to that pastor? Why did I not listen to why did I thought those things when I've been captive in my shame and my guilt? Has anyone else ever thought that before? You're in your shame and your guilt, and you're wondering, how did I get here? Because I was facing the wrong direction, and I desired the things of the world, just like most of us do. In Matthew 16, it tells us, what good is it if a man gains the whole world, but you lose your soul? Is anything worth more than your soul? You can have it all, guys. You want the world, you can have it all, but guess what? You're not taking it with you. 1. And 2, if that's really what you want, then you're going to say no to Jesus. If you're saying, I want this, listen, I'll get to you later. I want this. You can't have both. You got to make a decision of which way is your tent and who are you going all in for, the world or the word? Which one do you want to transform and impact your life? And I'm not saying when you just go to Jesus, you're never going to stumble, you're going to be perfect. No, you're going to mess up, but you have a direction because that's which way your tent is facing, and you're going to keep going that way. But look what happens when he goes to the Word. The things that he thought he wanted and craved, he now was in shame and guilt, and he was a slave to. And some of you may be feeling those things right now. So you maybe have felt those things, and maybe it's a good reminder to be reminded of what you were rescued and saved from. Is what Abram did is he didn't have to go and rescue him. He made a choice to separate from him. He knew where he was going. Am I saying Abram's Christ? No. But I want you to see that he left the comfort of what he had, Abram. He had he chose wisely. He was going to the Lord, obedient to the Lord. He had that. And he left his comfort to go rescue someone, a kinsman, that was in shame and guilt and was a slave, and brought him back. And I want you guys to know, even if you're on that raft in the middle of the ocean, God can bring you back if you're looking to him. If you have a humble posture and a humble heart to say, Lord, I need you.